Okay, let's get this show on the road. Episode 12. I'm Crown. I'm here in Crown Plaza with no one. I'm recording alone today. Maz couldn't make it. So we're going to do a quick one, maybe like 15, 20 minutes rather than 30. And I'm going to be talking about archetype and clothes. If you've ever seen me and Maz on the street, you can see we wear very different outfits. He has the sort of he has this suited look, don't know how to describe it, and I go for more like the Rockstar look. So quickly go through what it is you're aiming for when you decide to dress for a certain archetype, because like I said, I dress for the Rockstar look. You know, it's great to have an archetype for a few reasons. First one is IOIs, and part of that comes from concepts the girl has in her head before you've even opened, right? Because she'll look at the guy in, a tailored suit and with an open collar, and she might think, oh, okay, provider. She's going to be receptive, but she's going to think he's going to make a great boyfriend, great provider guy. If she looks at someone who is dressed really averagely, very shabby, kind of trainers, sort of loose jeans, maybe a simple t-shirt, she's gonna think, not interested. A very boring sort of average guy. Nothing that's gonna make her tingle. When she looks at maybe the Rockstar look, she's gonna have these ideas that he is after fast sex. She's gonna think that he is maybe creative, very charismatic. He's used to getting up on stage, and even though, when she talks to you, she finds out you're not actually a musician, these things, they don't go away. So it's just like the Cialdini thing where he says laughter tracks. Everyone knows that there's a laughter track, but people still laugh. We have these pathways in our head where we can't actually stop ourselves from thinking these things. So even when she knows that you're not a musician, she still sees Rockstar look, she thinks about sex. And then as well, she goes back to all of those ideas that she had growing up about hooking up with the musicians and dangerous men, that sort of thing. Apart from the look as well, I like to go with this like Dark Knight look, very Batman-esque. You can get that, you'll have like slim jeans, you'll be more sort of top heavy, if that makes sense, slim jeans, bigger jacket with angles on the shoulders. So I always think that that's a great look, and it's like it's almost like the bad boy version of a suit. All right, so what is it exactly? Let me take a sip of tea. So I had a very delicious whole chicken from Nando's, extra hot for lunch. So I'm a bit thirsty. What is it I wear when I go out on the street? I've got, like I said, the leather jacket. We'll start from the top. Got a leather jacket. We've got just sometimes plain t-shirt, but always go with something that either has a deep sort of round neck or like a deep V neck, so that it doesn't just look like an average t-shirt. I've got black slim jeans on, not skinny jeans, because I think if you wear skinny jeans, they're a bit too tight. They kind of look gay. And of course, you don't want that. You also don't want to come across as the fashionable man, because then she's also a guy who works in fashion, because again, she's going to think you're gay. On top of that, then I've got these brown brogue boots. I've got a brown belt. Simple rule to follow is color-wise, is that you should wear dark muted colors, maybe a white t-shirt, but dark muted colors, mostly black, and the boots should match the belt, coloring wise. On top of that, I've got some accessories. I've got a couple of rings, one of which I was wearing before I started doing Daygame, and the other one I picked up on the way. I've got a necklace. I've got a very chunky watch. I've got a bracelet, and that's it. And those same sort of colors. So one ring is gold, one ring is silver, and all the rest of it is silver and black, except for the watch, which is brown and silver. So getting very specific, and you might say to yourself, like, what's the point in thinking about these things so much? Well, it comes back to what I was saying at the very beginning, right? Because you pick up IOIs off of your archetype, and these are things where you don't even have to do anything on the street. They're just there. They're permanent. It's basically like passive game rather than active game that you're doing on the street. And she'll pick up on it in your vibe as well. I mean, the clothes make you feel good. I mean, when I used to go out in something similar, but it was like a cardigan and a suede jacket. It felt nicer, in quotes. It felt nice out and doing the boyfriend style day game. But when I put the leather jacket on, really interesting thing happened. Well, I was wearing it for a few months, getting used to it. And then one day I went straight out of work and just have some more tea. I went straight out of work and went out in the same cardigan suede jacket combination again. And when I told people where I worked or what I did, they started asking a lot more questions about that and which institution it was, what it was I did, and you could definitely tell that they were asking the provider questions. They were auditioning you for the boyfriend. Whereas when I wear the leather jacket, it's normally like they just ask it. They never ask unless it's one of the silly questions that girls ask because they don't know how to do conversation, or if they're hooking off of work, they might just blurt out with, "What do you do?" You know, they're not trained obviously to have great conversation skills. And where am I going to get all this from? Now that's the key thing, is you don't have to have much money to do this. You know, my clothes come from Zara, Topshop, or Top Man, so you can actually go in there and buy clothes, and you don't actually have to do pickup in there. You can go there and buy things. And so just high street brands, River Island. You don't need to go in somewhere really expensive. Try and make one of your items really nice. So for most guys, that's going to be the jacket. You know, if you're going with the leather jacket look, spend time researching it, getting a good one, the one that's going to give you a look that you like. Spend a lot of money, because as anything with leather, like if you take care of it, it's going to last for a long, long time. All right. And last thing on terms of look, you know, what about designs or prints? This kind of comes into the art selection part of Daygame. So I think if you're going to have a design or a print, don't go with stripes or a design like geometric design that a lot of the hipsters wear. You know, just go down to Shoreditch and probably wear exactly the opposite of what it is they're wearing. I'll have t-shirts that have skulls on them, t-shirts that have tigers on them, like snarling tigers. And again, you might think to yourself, well, that's a bit over the top. A t-shirt with a skull on it, that's very aggressive. But it gets the girls to stop. And as Krauser says, the pussy tingle begins in the defensive crouch. So always take that to mind. Right, where do we go from here? It's different when you haven't got someone bouncing off of you. I think the next thing I want to talk about is when it becomes too much. So I used to wear, I would have exactly what I just described a few minutes ago, but I'd also have a much bigger necklace, and a couple of them. I'd have big rings, extra rings, and I'd have a different sort of bracelet. And I think the reason a couple of things were going badly when I started wearing that, I immediately noticed that my results were going down. And on one hand, I think it was because I had skimped on the accessories on the price, so they looked a bit plastic. Like, you don't want something that looks like you've bought it to create the image. You know, you want to have this authenticity, at least in the way that you look on first glance. So it looked a bit plastic, and obviously girls thought to themselves, this guy is just the pickup artist, and maybe they'd rule you out for that. And then on the other hand as well, you just start wearing too much. It's a bit clunky. I always remember when I was wearing the multiple necklaces, and they were very long and would jangle around a lot, so I had to hold them as I was running in to do the front stop, or do the yad stop, I should say. And it was very weird. There's on a weird sort of aerodynamic, feeling solid way, You don't want to have too many bric-a-bracs, knickknacks shaking around all over the place. And it just makes you feel more solid. You know, you go in, stop the girl. You don't have to think about these things flying around. So I found those a bit too much. Dialed them back a bit. That leads on to the last thing. The last thing I want to talk about on this mini podcast is that you can go too far with adding things. And what normally happens is you'll add something on, an extra ring, an extra necklace, or a more aggressive t-shirt or something like that. And you see your results drop. For example, when I started wearing the accessories, I went from maybe, on average, I went from maybe 3 numbers in 10 approaches to 2 numbers in 10 approaches. And maybe it doesn't seem like a lot, but extrapolate that over, let's say, 200 sets. You're going to be getting 20 less numbers, 10 less replies. So only 10, you're losing out on 10 girls who are messaging you. And then out of those, you might have got, say, 3 to 5 dates. If that's 3 or 5 dates, that's a lay, just from increasing the amount of dangles that you've got on. What happens, though, is normally what happens is you add the thing in, your results go down a bit because you get used to it. And then once you're comfortable with it, then your results pick back up to where they were, and it's all good. You've got the more of the R-selected vibe, but you've got the same results. Because ultimately, the R-selection thing is filtering. You are saying that you're communicating to the girl that you're after fast sex, rather than, like I said earlier, if you go up with a suit on, then maybe you'll get 8 out of 10 numbers. And you'll get lots of dates, but they'll be auditioning you for the boyfriend, so you'll have to go on a lot of dates in order to get the lay. And then afterwards, of course, you're going to feel bad, maybe. She's probably going to feel bad. And it's not very good for your vibe in the long term. Now, what happens is, eventually, you'll add something back on to your look. And it will be too much. At that point, that's when you've hit the optimum level, of your archetype, of your look. At that point, stop adding things, only upgrade what you already have. The last thing I want to go over is that, and this kind of ties into what I said about having cheap accessories. Obviously, that's really bad. You at least want to have an imitation look, like something that looks like it's really good, or it's authentic, or you've got it when you went traveling or something. Is that, like Mazz says, when girls have tattoos on their arms, or when girls wear big rings, or they wear necklaces, they wear them to draw attention to those things. And I completely agree. So girls are going to pick up on this on you as well. If you wear a ring, if you wear some rings, they're probably going to reach, if they want to initiate some sort of keynote with you, they want to reach out and touch them, they're going to show interest. So often they'll say, what's this ring? What's this bracelet? And you're either going to want to have one of two things. Now, if there genuinely is a story behind each one, then that's better. Keep that. If there is no story, but you can fit one of your pre-existing stories to it, then do that. That's great. Better to have a story surrounding it, because then obviously you can work in all of the attraction switches into your story, and it's good just to be a storyteller, because it brings her further into your world, into your frame. Now, if you don't have a story, I think the next best thing to do is have some sort of cocky, funny line. So, for example, I have a necklace that has some wings on it. And there's three wings on it. And I remembered back to Tom Torero lay report I was reading, where some guy asked him about his tattoos, and he said that they were the initials of his ex-wives. So I thought, perfect, I'll steal that. Just like everyone does in pickup. And I had a date yesterday actually where the girl reached over, and lots of sexual tension was building up, and I could tell she wanted to close the distance, so she came over and she like touched my necklace and said, "Oh, what's this?" And I don't have a story from it because I just bought it from Topshop. And I say, you know, these wings, you know, I got this to commemorate, one for each of my ex-wives. Ha 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 ha, she coos, maybe you carry on, you say, yeah, you know, I married them for the money. Then I divorced them and I got the money and they kept the cat. And it's a bit cheesy, but remember, whenever she asks you a question, you're thinking about it logically. I think it's a great idea to go off on a tangent here. It's a great idea to think about any question a girl asks you is a shit test, because she's not asking you for the logical information. She's trying to work out whether or not you know the attractive way, I don't want to say feminine way to answer something, but if you know the attractive way to answer it, because she doesn't actually care about where the necklace is from. She just wants to close the distance. She wants to be entertained. Monkey, but have these things up your sleeve. Okay, so that is 16 minutes. I've got to say, I was actually quite nervous coming into this one. Much more nervous than I was going into my first set of the day today. I've already done my 10. And it's interesting recording without someone here. But I figured if I can go out into the street and talk to strangers and come up with random shit there, then I guess I could do it on the podcast. Right, so that is episode 12 on Archetype/clothes. Maybe in future I'll see if Mazz wants to do one on his own look and how it changes his game and how he thinks girls respond to it. But that's it, episode 12, over and out.